If y'all like somebody aunties and uncles sitting over there.
Stop.
Does that mean we look old like
Like just somebody aunties and uncles like, yeah, can we really get this so we can go home and get in our bed?
Sitting up in the living room.
I done said that too. I can't wait to get home and take this stuff off.
Let me tell you, that's why I don't reach that age now. People are like, oh, you want? No, I'm going home. And if you don't catch me before I get to the house, no, don't ask me to come back
Can't come
outside.
back out.
Yeah, that's a wrap.
All right. 4 o'clock, we ready?
Okay. No, we got 3 minutes. Girl, you is ready.
Yeah, she ready.
This is production. We gotta be yes.
Gotta get right. Make sure we right. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. So I can get this back up.
Lord, these pillows.
Oh, you need to move some more?
I'm good. No, I remember Miss Maggie told me she got to redecorate. Mari, did you really need all these pillows?
I can hear her saying that too.
Yeah, we don't need all that. It makes it look uninvited. What are you
Yeah. Cause I don't want to knock it off.
Cause
It's by my elbow.
but that match. Okay,
Just ran to it.
that matched my living room. My stuff is blue and silver.
Just take it.
Now
Now you know the pastor right there. He gonna tell the Lord.
That's done.
I ain't tell nobody else. Worst witness ever. I ain't seen nothing long as you don't ask me about it.
Ooh.
Now, in the future, you might have to get mics.
So we gonna progress. See, that's
Everything can be black or
Do I
white.
No, I don't think so.
Sometimes you gotta sit and upgrade the T.A.B. experience.
Can you hear me?
This is where truth meets healing in a moment. We talk life, we talk love, we break chains, we rise above. Come sit down and unwind, find your peace, clear your mind. Yes, it's the T.A.B. experience.
That's the light you request.
Everything can be black or white. Sometimes you gotta sit and upgrade the T.A.B. experience. This is where truth meets healing in a moment. We talk life, we talk love, we break chains, we rise above. Come sit down and unwind.
We'll be ready.
Okay.
No, Gary. That way, right? They look that way. And then, now, do you need me to look?
Yeah, you look, that's your camera.
Okay.
So this is everybody. I'm going to be zooming in on y'all as you talk too.
Okay.
Don't zoom too hard.
All right, so we want to start. You want to start out? That's all
Yeah.
like me with the camera on you. You want to talk and open up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just let me know when it's time. Menopause over here.
All right, now you ready? All right, we're gonna go in at 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Welcome everyone to another edition of the T.A.B. Experience Podcast. I'm your host, Troy A. Bowers, and today we have a very special conversation I believe that is long overdue. This episode is proudly being sponsored by NAMI, Mid-Carolina, serving the Midlands of South Carolina. July is B.B. Moore Campbell National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, a time dedicated to raising awareness of mental health in underserved communities and reducing stigma. Today's discussion is called The Intersection Between Faith and Mental Health in the African American Community. For generations, our churches have been places of hope, healing, prayer, and refuge. Yet, conversations about depression, anxiety, trauma, addiction, and suicide have not always been in the conversation. Today we're asking, can faith and therapy coexist? Can prayer and professional treatment work together? How can churches become safe spaces for people who are struggling. Today we have a panel of guests. Sanithia Brown, the Executive Director of NAMI, Pastor Glenn Bynum from Chapin, South Carolina, and Holly Capers, a licensed professional counselor. So, today, I would like to ask each of you, the guests, what it is. Z, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Why is this topic so special to you? Why did you feel the need to bring this topic to the community?
Well, one, like you said, July being B.B. Moore Campbell National Minority Health Awareness Month.
Tongue twister.
Mental Health Awareness Month, yes. B.B. Moore Campbell, she was an advocate, she was an author, and she was also a caregiver. And one of the things that she was very passionate about was expanding the discussion about mental health in communities of color. And so that's why, we want to do this in honor of National Minority Mental Health Month, but also because, like you were saying, I think in so many ways people feel like treatment and faith have to compete, and that's not the case. And so I wanted to kind of, I have my personal experience, I have my professional experience, but I also want to start by saying that NAMI is not a religious organization. We do not adhere to any denomination, but we do recognize that faith is a large part of people's recovery, their journey to recovery. And so we do embrace the idea of, faith and mental health intersecting. And so, but there are so many people out there that feel like, if I pray it away, if I'm a Christian, then I can't seek therapy.
Absolutely.
And that is not the case. I want to make sure we have the conversation where people understand that those two things do not need to compete.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you spent about 10 years as leading NAMI, North Carolina. Looking back, what's the one thing you learned that completely changed the way you think about mental health?
Mental health does not discriminate. Mental health does not care your race. It does not care about your socioeconomic status. It impacts us all, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. The issue that I found is that we need to create places, safe spaces for people to be able to say, I'm not okay. That's the thing. And I've learned that, NAMI is about education, advocacy, and support. And education can change lives, but conversation changes communities. And that's what we need to do. And I appreciate being here, you allowing us to use your platform so that we can either continue the conversation or get the conversation started, wherever people are in their journey. But, the more we talk about it, the more we reduce the stigma around it. Absolutely. And the more people are able to say, I'm not okay.
And you find that typically in our culture, in our communities, that Black folk are not comfortable with talking about mental health.
Absolutely.
And that kind of segue into Pastor Glenn. So tell me, Pastor Bynum, what does Scripture teach us about emotional suffering?
God's ultimate responsibility is to make sure that we have welfare and that we are healthy and whole. And the stigma that has been placed in our community because we used to keep the person that was mentally ill in the back room basically a secret. And it's been transferred in the church because scripturally it tells you pray, and this kind comes by fasting and praying. Kind of contradicts actually what God's original intent was. And being that mental health is such a challenge in its own right outside of the church, bringing it into the church has been a struggle because most people have kept that adage that if you can't pray about it, it can't be fixed. When in actuality, they don't look at the reality of what God did and how many times mental health and mental adherence was present inside of the Bible. And we've taken the misinterpretation of Scripture and used it to keep mental health out. And even inside the church now, you're talking about a divorce rate because of depression that's over 52%, and suicide amongst pastors is over 30%. And so we have to now embrace that that's a conversation that needs to be had, and that there are people coming. We often say that church is an emergency room, a place where people can come and find their healing. Mental healing is just as important as physical healing. And if we don't look at it and see the relevance of having these conversations, we're going to have a lot of people we lose.
Okay. So
I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that because that's very much about what we were here to discuss today.
Y'all have to excuse me. This light has.
Okay. But you know, you look amazing. You look amazing.
Well, thank you. Is depression lack of faith?
No, depression is not lack of faith. Actually, we need to get the proper definition of it. I often tell people that depression is anger turned inward, and you're holding on to something that you need to release. And lack of faith has nothing to do with you releasing something. You can hold on to things and still have faith to do it. Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he was there, he was in a state of anxiety and depression because he was getting ready to be offered up. So powerful that he prayed the same prayer 3 times. And then we tell people you shouldn't pray the same thing over and over again. Because if you pray, you don't have faith. But he prayed the same prayer 3 times. And then his physical attributes during the prayer was he prayed so hard that it wasn't sweat coming out, it was blood coming out. He was releasing something that he had no more bodily fluids, so the water that would be normally released turned into blood. Then we look at scripture where you see the demoniac that was so caught up, but he had faith enough to know that if he got to Jesus, he could be free. Now, he was in a grave where nobody could bind him, he was not clothed, but when he came to Jesus and fell at his feet, he understood if I could get to him, I could get my situation changed. But we don't teach that if we get to the word and the word can heal them. Even the scripture says, I sent my word and my word healed them and delivered them from all their afflictions. So faith definitely walks hand in hand with having the responsibility to make sure that the people are whole in all attributes.
Absolutely. Okay. How can churches respond different today?
I think now you're seeing more of a turn toward churches that are realizing the relevance of mental health. But you still have that chosen few that are going to push back.
Absolutely.
And they're pushing back with the incorrect understanding. And I think now that they're opening up, especially like I said, with pastoralship and saying pastors commit suicide at such a high rate, it's kind of opening the eyes to the congregation and to the leadership that this is something that needs to be discussed. And Old Testament and New Testament, it's all throughout. David said that in the Psalms, he talks about being so overtaken with his enemy. And then he talks about being overtaken with the enemy that's on the inside of him. He's dealing with something. That's the Old Testament. Then you go to New Testament, you see Jesus. He's in his prayer at the Garden of Gethsemane. You go further on, you see Paul when he's wrestled against the temptations and the things that he's dealing with. And he breaks it down. John on the Isle of Patmos. All of these people are telling you that these are situations that we deal with that are going to cause us to have to look at mental health differently. And if we continue down that same path, we're going to lose some people that we shouldn't have to lose.
See?
And I want to go to Holly later because I know you're a professional, but that's one of the things that brought me to this topic. We are trying our best to reach out into, communities of color, communities that traditionally did not want to speak out. We've all heard, house business stays in the house, pray about it, don't tell anybody our business. But, I've actually gone out to do presentations at churches. And one of the last places I went, it was a men's group. It was a church men's group. And I went and I started to do my talk and I did my presentation. And one of the gentlemen raised his hands and he was like, well, you can't cure mental illness without prayer. That's all you need. And he went on to say that mental illness was a demon spirit that needed to be prayed on, and that medication was it couldn't help. And I just pretty much lost. I mean, I at that point, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to pack up and go because, NAMI does not have an exorcism division. We don't do that, and it almost got me to feeling like, why did you even call me out, And they proceeded to have their conversation about how mental illness was a demon spirit. And I also went to another church, and the gentleman, deacon, he literally asked me, is it possible to be a Christian and have a mental illness? And and so I'm a gate. What are you talking about? Because I just explained to you that I am a Christian, right, and I live with anxiety and depression. And so there is that stigma out there that people, and we hear about people opening, like you said, more communities opening up and discussing more about mental health, but there are still those closed communities that feel that all you have to do is pray.
Right.
And you know, and I'm here to say, you know, that those two things don't have to compete. You can pray and have a therapist.
Both things can be real at the same time.
And I think the scripture that they often use, and this is the one where Jesus came off the Mount of Transfiguration, and it says the Father brought his Son unto the disciples to see if they could heal him. And so Jesus came and saw them surrounded, and they couldn't bring the demon out. He asked them, for what cause are you with them? And he said, my son oftentimes throws himself into fire. He's tormented. He tears himself, throws himself in this fire. And so Jesus said, this kind come by fasting and praying. And the man said, Lord, help thou my unbelief. And Jesus cast it out. Two things are relevant in that situation. The description of that story, if you read it in a medical journal, it's an epileptic seizure.
Okay. Okay.
If you look at the symptoms that he gives Jesus, it's epilepsy. It's what we describe as epilepsy today. And then the second thing is that he says, and what has been misinterpreted and miscarried, is this kind comes by fasting and praying. There are some things that we're going to have to fast and pray for, but Jesus is not telling them to get rid of faith and get rid of seeking help. We talked about so many people. You're going to see so many people that go through in the Bible. The woman that came to Jesus, Mary, that came to Jesus with the alabaster box. She came because of her sins, but her sins were wearing her down. She was having a mental episode of depression. She wanted to be broken free from that. So she came there. They said Mary, whom he cast out many demons. Being caught up and being demon possessed is a mental instability, because the demon afflicts the mind. So if we're not going to fight the demon on his level and go into things that we're going to lose the cause. We can't dismiss mental health in the church because it's a part of what we're called to do.
Absolutely.
Restore the mind, restore the heart, restore the soul. Because it says you love the Lord with God with all thy mind. That right there, if it's not right, how you going to love God?
Absolutely.
And so you're going to have to find a way to seek it. And we have to break that stigma.
Like you said, it's like a hierarchy of needs. I mean, if you're mentally not together, how can the rest of you be together?
Right.
You know, and this is a perfect segue into the clinical portion of this.
I was just waiting.
So, Holly, terms such as depression, anxiety, and trauma are often used. Can you tell us about those things? What does that mean exactly? For those who don't know what it means.
Okay. So all of those are like categories of mental illnesses, but if you think about depression, is kind of categorized by a long period of sadness. Anxiety is worry and obsession and things like that. But what I really want to pinpoint is that nothing is a mental disorder until it impacts your ability to function.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
you can be sad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can have some worry and some fear, but when you can't function in the world across several domains, like you're not taking care of yourself, you're not taking care of family, you can't work, now it's a mental disorder.
Okay.
So for me, when I hear people say like I'm sad or I'm upset or I'm worried, it really doesn't kind of trigger my light bulb until I realize that they can't function. Right? And I also, my son said this to me too, because I read the questions to him. And he said he wanted me to remind people that, because sometimes when people are depressed, like really depressed, they think it's nothing. Right? Because people like, you just sad, you need to get up, you need to go out, you need to do things.
Push
right?
through.
Push
And
through.
so-
Yes, we've heard that.
People are really suffering. A lot of times they don't get help because they don't think there's anything
Anything
wrong.
wrong. Absolutely. You touched on something, and I had this experience. I do suffer with depression, anxiety, and I also have panic attacks. But you mentioned something about push through, and I was told that on several occasions. Just push through. Like, I don't understand. You just got to get up and go to work, and you just got to do it. You don't know what that feels like.
To be diminished. Like
Yes,
And
to-
dismissed.
You can't push through depression because depression is impacting the hormones and serotonin and dopamine in your brain. So it's like, and I told my son this too, imagine if I filled your engine with Kool-Aid instead of gas, and I told you to drive across town. What's needed in your brain is not there. And like sometimes therapy can't help it if the imbalance is too imbalanced. Like you're gonna have to get medication to make it balance. But then sometimes talk therapy can help because it is something that has been internalized. Depression can be situational.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So there's situational depression and then there's chemical.
Clinical, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you Can you explain a little bit between those two?
So there could be a situation that happened in your life, like you lost your job, you haven't found another job yet, you got divorced, you gained 40 pounds, you just can't get your footing, so you're depressed and you can't get back on track. That's situational depression. But if you have a chemical imbalance in your brain, so let's say your serotonin is off, it makes your brain depressed. It slows you down, your thinking, your ability to function and show up in the world. I can't talk your brain out of serotonin. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to have to restore that in your brain, and then we can work on the situation and stuff.
And when you say that, that brings me to, like, you know, I've heard people say to, you know, people, well, what you got to be depressed about? You know, you got a good job, you married, you got a nice house, you got a nice car, you know, and I tell people they probably don't have anything to be depressed about, but they're depressed. You can't make your brain, you know what I'm saying, not be it. And it's almost like you were talking about the gas thing. My analogies, I tell people it's like taking a backpack and filling it with bowling balls, you know, and then trying to get up out of bed. It's like, okay, you know I have to go to work. I know I've got to feed my kids. I know I've got bills to pay, but I'm going to haul this on my back all day, every day, you know. And when people say, well, what do you have to be depressed about? That's almost like tying it to gratitude. Like, why are you being so ungrateful? You got all this going for you and everything, and they don't realize, you know, the same way I take my insulin for my diabetes, I also take my Boost bar, you know, for my anxiety. You know, we can't, like you were just saying, we can't separate our mental health from our physical health. Because, like you said, it is a chemical. For some people, it is a chemical imbalance, and for some people, it is situational, like divorce and grief, those kind of things. But if it becomes a situation where, you know, you're just depressed because that's the way you feel, then it is clinical.
Okay. When should someone seek professional help?
What she was just saying. Yeah. When you stop.
Anytime. By the time you're not functioning, like, it's going to take me a while to get you caught up. So if you're sad, if you're anxious, if you're worried, you got trauma, if you just want to work it out with somebody, you just need support. Like, there's no time to get there.
So let's talk about a session. Let's just talk about what a session looks like, because we know often that Black folks don't like to go to a therapist because they don't want people in their heads, and I don't need anybody trying to get in my brain and figure me out or in my business. So
if I can get y'all past the first session, I got you.
Yeah.
Right? I promise you. If I can get you to come in for your first session, I got you, because it's just a conversation. Right?
Just a conversation.
It's just a conversation.
No, go ahead.
And I want to one of the reasons why I felt like this topic is important is because, unfortunately, when people feel like they're not okay, their first step is not the therapist. A lot of times, the first step is people they trust. And who do Black people trust? We trust our pastor, we trust our deacon, we trust our elders, and that's where we go to first sometimes.
And when there's church hurt, unless there's been church hurt,
and if your first effort to go to someone and say I'm not okay, and they're dismissive of you, then you're less likely to go to a therapist. You know, because the one person I thought I could trust, that I thought would listen to me, is telling me to push through. I'm gonna be okay and just deal with it. You know, we have to know that the people that are at the forefront, the people that know that they are the trusted individuals that other people come to, you know, they need to be equipped with the words and with the knowledge to be able to say, you know what, you might need to go see a therapist. You know, this is a little bit beyond my scope, and it's okay. It's
it's above me now,
but it's not above my pay grade.
Right.
So, you know, and seek therapy.
Okay. So how do faith and counseling complement one another?
I think faith and counseling complement each other because of the fact that basically it's the same thing. Because you have to have faith in a result that's going to happen. Counseling narrates or guides you through to that result. And prayer is a form of counseling. And I say that because you're taking your problem to God in a conversation, just like in a counseling session. And it even tells you go and shut the door and have a conversation with just him. And a lot of times we need to understand that prayer is a communication that we can tell God what we're dealing with. And then he sends you a person that you can talk to and get it out. May it be a pastor, maybe a person that crossed your path and has gone through what you've gone through and has no idea who you are. The next thing you know, you're in a conversation with somebody that you've never seen before, and they're telling you all about your life.
That sounds like a support group. Anonymous support group.
That, talk about the men's group that you were talking about, and having a proper teaching is so that we can recognize somebody that's in trauma. And, to tell somebody to push past, we tell people to push past because prayer. Pray until something happens. That's what you push. Pray until something happens. And pray until something happens. So you find a good counselor that can help you out that mess you're in.
You heard that, right?
A lot of trauma people are going to is unknown.
Okay.
Because they have experienced something and they blocked it out. And now they're going on thinking everything is good, but they can't get past this one thing. Something triggers in their mind that this is not safe. They don't even know what is not safe at that moment until they go back and dwell and find, okay, this happened. And this triggers this response. Whenever I hear the sound or the smell or I see this thing, it triggers something in me. And it makes me respond to it in a way that I wasn't even aware that I did it. So when you look at faith and counseling and prayer and counseling, they walk hand in hand. Every major character that you find in the Bible had counsel with somebody. They were under somebody's counsel, under somebody's tutelage. They went to them for questions that they had. And if they didn't have a one-on-one with God, Moses was upset because God hadn't fulfilled, Abraham was upset because God hadn't fulfilled his promise. And when he came back, he made an accusation. God said, I'm going to be a shield and receive a great reward. When he came back, he said, I got everything except I don't have an heir. You promised me an heir. It's been some years, I still ain't got one. So much that his wife laughed. And then he said, why you laugh? Is there anything too hard for God? He was his counsel. And then he went and he changed the situation. David had Nathan, the prophet. Whenever he was in trouble, Nathan showed up. So much so that when the baby was about to die, Nathan came and told him why he was about to die. You get to Jesus. He had Peter, James, and John. Whenever something was there, he separated himself from the other one and stayed with them three. When he went to the Mount Transfiguration, he took 3 people. That was his counsel. And then that's what we see. We get so caught up in thinking we can do this by ourselves because we walk in a spiritual anointing. But it's not. We're supposed to seek counsel. He said wisdom is the beginning of knowledge. If you cannot seek the truth of what your situation is, your mindset will never change. Your mindset will never change. You'll never find the safety.
I also think Christians hide their mental health because they think it's a punishment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm suffering because I'm out of alignment with God, or I'm suffering because I'm in sin.
Wow.
And so when they are suffering, they're not going to go tell their pastor. They're not going to go talk to the deacon or their grandmother or anybody because they think God is punishing them.
And that's more of a confession or okay, I never thought about it like that. I never thought about it like that.
Like, why am I suffering? Especially when it comes to grief and loss. Why did my child die? Why did my husband leave? Right? It's like I'm being punished. And so they hide it. They hide the grief. They hide the suffering. Like I met a lady whose daughter died like in a car accident, and she was like, I've been praying and God is kind of walking me through this, but she was completely stuck in her grief. But to own that, to say, I'm struggling, I'm angry with God, my daughter has been taken from me, to own that in therapy, right, that's hard. To say, I'm angry with God, or is God angry with me? Right? And
That's so deep, I didn't think about it.
And it's funny because a lot of people don't realize or don't admit that you can be angry with God.
Yes, you can.
And they don't believe it. They're like, you can't be angry with God, you're not going to win. You can be mad at God, and then you have to come to yourself. It's so much that he tells us that we have to renew our mind. Romans said, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then he tells us that confess your sins one to another. He tells us to come together. Come in counseling. And you're overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of your testimony. Not by praying, but what you talk about. We so want to hold things in, and it makes it a deeper situation. And like you said, the stigma of being ashamed because you're a Christian and you have issues.
You know, so
Christ had issues.
Right. Right.
And I want to know, because I mean, all of this honestly is going to help me to be a better presenter, better community advocate, for mental health. But I would like to understand, why is it in mostly the Black churches where, there is that stigma surrounding mental illness? Like I know we have I know we have like a really good relationship with the Presbyterian churches actually have, in their doctrine that they, support mental health, and they actually open up for us to have our support groups and things like that. And I've found that, when I've been with NAMI in Mid Carolina for 10 years, there were very few Black people in our support groups, it's grown now, but coming, starting out, we may have had one or two, but, we've had a lot of Caucasians in our support groups. And so I'm just, kind of wondering, generationally, or just, traditionally, why is it so? Because again, for me, I know that we did not talk about mental illness in my household growing up. But I do know one of the first things I did when I started working for NAMI was to become more familiar with the diagnoses. And then I started diagnosing my whole family tree. And I'm like, okay, I see things, but we didn't talk about it. And so, why is there such a hard nut to crack?
I'm going to agree with you on that. I think and I feel like the Black church has lagged behind in not only mental health, but all aspects. Like even when you're talking about HIV, the Black church is at the party now. They're here now,
It
took a while, but it took years for that to happen. It's like now we're here in mental health, and they're coming around. But why is it that we're always late to the parties? Like we got to backpedal, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, there's that fire that we in, but it's been burning for a very long time. Why are we always late to the party?
Well, I think the reason we're always late to the party, not only in the church but as a community as a whole, is because we have how we got here. We came here on boats and chains, and because of that stigma of breaking free from that, we still have to fight that racism or that disproportionate understanding every day. And so showing any kind of weakness shows the outside community that you have a deficiency. Right. And you can never show a deficiency if you're trying to always fight against deficiencies. Right. And so the stigma of it being a weakness or being something that you don't talk about in our community because of the fact that we refuse to show any weakness to anybody outside of ourselves. And it holds us back because we can't embrace the power of the change that it presents because we're too afraid that somebody's going to see a weakness and exploit it. And so now that we're breaking chains and we're coming out, and I think the attitude, especially recently in the last few years, the unbothered attitude, where I'm not letting you disrupt my peace.
There you go.
And if you disrupt
Protect
my
your
peace,
yes,
if you're
protect
disrupting
your
my peace, then we're going to have issue. And it's now changing to where we're embracing it more. To understand that, I need my peace. My mental faculties is where I succeed. The more strong I am mentally, the better I operate. And now the churches and the community is beginning to embrace that it's not bad. That we're not the only ones. Strongest. Now we can let our guard down and be free to receive the things that are coming to change our mindset.
I also think African Americans have not always had the access.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Sometimes what Medicaid offers families when they come into therapy is because DSS is involved, and so they got a therapist that has an agenda. So families don't always get really good therapy.
Right.
It's more like case management.
Okay.
Right. The therapist is.
So the needs are not really addressed.
Well, because they're looking for abuse. They're looking for signs and symptoms of abuse.
Okay.
Right. And so the kids don't feel safe with the therapist. The parents don't feel safe with the therapist. And for a lot of Black families, that's their first introduction to counseling. And
therapeutic
good
services.
therapy is behind paywalls. Like I hate to say it, it really is.
Right.
Like really good therapy that's been researched and all these interventions that have been researched and proven to be effective, those people are behind really big things.
I'm curious, do you, because I know that nationally there's a shortage of mental health professionals, you know, but I'm wondering if more Black people going into the profession, is that making it a little bit easier for people to seek help? You know, because I've worked with a group of seniors, and we've talked about, like, you know, just the physical health, and, you know, and how, you know, there is a little bit of mistrust there, especially, you know, when you think historically, like the Tuskegee, you know, experiment, things like that. You know, we don't necessarily trust doctors and therapists to have our best interests at heart, but now that we have more,
But sometimes people don't want a Black therapist.
they don't.
I was just gonna, and that was something that was on my mind. I was thinking that,
I'm curious.
you know, so I've gone through Black, white. I think I've even had an Indian, had male, female, and what has worked for me traditionally has been Black women or white women,
Okay.
but not Black men.
So they
I'm
don't
not.
always have to look like you.
Yeah, so for me, you know, it doesn't, because how I got into therapy, or how I came to therapy, was after my mom's passing. And so, you know, I didn't feel like I had any issues dealing with manhood or anything that I needed to address. So it really was just grief. And so I felt okay, and I didn't feel, you know, I felt okay opening up to. But that is a thing, though. And I think people need to understand that your therapist, you have to vet them just like you would your medical provider.
Yes,
you have to have conversation, and you have to ask questions, and you have to understand, okay, this is the person that's right for me. So talk a little bit about that, about, you know, therapists, some people do want somebody that looks like them, whether that's male, female, Black or white. Talk a little bit about that. And talk a little bit about that,
When I started therapy, I didn't want a Black woman. I had so much distrust towards Black women. And I thought Black women would judge me as, you know, weak or, you know, complaining. And so I started therapy. I started therapy with a white lady. And it was very helpful until we got to a certain point in my care where I felt like
she couldn't help me.
I will say now my therapist is a Black lady, and that relationship has been so healing and restorative for me. But I think outside of, like, whatever viewpoint your therapist holds about change and whatever techniques they use, you just gotta, is the personality resonating with you? Does the office feel good? Do you feel safe when you walk in there? Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel seen? First time your therapist says something that you feel is kind of off, address it. And then if they don't change it, or they get argumentative with you, leave. My son said his therapist told him, no, I don't agree with what you're saying. And after that, he didn't go back.
Turn it off, I'm sure.
Simply. Yeah, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm paying my money.
And you don't want to feel judged either.
No, you don't want to feel
Absolutely.
judged. You want to feel heard. And I don't care who Black women go to somebody.
And that's what I tell my friends. So I don't care who you go to. Go to somebody. You know, they look like you, they don't like you. Just find some help. You know what I'm saying? Like therapy.
And if you can't go to therapy, join a support group. Not join a support group.
No, I mean, me in Carolina.
There you go. I'm just saying. Yeah.
And I wanted to piggyback off of something the pastor said. I am never in competition with God. I am never, ever in competition with God. If anything, I tell my patients that I am a conduit.
There you
that
go.
God is. But nah, I'm not in there trying to replace God.
Absolutely.
Well, no, but that's a healthy perception to have. I just know that, you know, in some churches, they feel like, you know, if you seek therapy, then you don't trust God. Your faith is weak,
Right.
and I'm trying my best to get past that.
A lot of times people don't feel loved by God anyway, and so they don't want to go to church and address that, and they don't want to address that with me because they think they're being punished. I see that a lot.
It's sad.
Okay. Can someone deeply love God and still experience depression?
Absolutely.
Hey.
See?
Without question. Jeremiah was in love with God. But he told God one time, I don't even want to speak your name. I don't even want to talk about you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't even want to hear your name mentioned.
Wow.
Now that's something. That's his prophet.
Right.
And he tells God, I don't want to talk about you. Every time I turn around, I'm getting beat. People are doing things to me. And you think this feels good? I love you, but I don't want to talk about you. And then he said, but it was like fire. Shut up in my bones.
Okay.
I think the misconception that people have about mental health is that you will never know pain and suffering.
Yes.
That's not true. You will suffer. You will be depressed. Your heart will be broken, but you will have the capacity to cope.
Right.
Coping skills.
Yeah.
And the coping skills.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So, what are some tools and some, I think my therapist uses CBD. I think when I first went to the hospital, because I've even been hospitalized for my depression. I think DBT. DBT, yeah. DBT.
CBD is something else.
Yeah. you just said
CBT.
CBT.
Yeah. CBD. I didn't want to say it out loud. Okay. Since we're here. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Sorry. CBT and DBT.
That's another show.
Yeah. Nami's not sponsored. But yeah, there are some coping. But yeah.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of information that happens out there now where people get on TikTok and they you should take a bath and you should light a candle and you should journal and all kind of stuff. Like, there's a place for that. But if you want a real tool and a real resource, I think the most difficult thing for people to do is to just accept reality.
And that you need help.
Yeah, accept that your heart is broken. Accept that your granddaddy molested you, right? Accept that your husband is having an affair, right? Accept that your son is on drugs, right? And so, like, sometimes the precursor for real healing is the awareness of truth.
Oh, I like that.
The awareness
of truth.
Okay.
Oh.
And if people could just stay in their truth for just a moment, then you can allow yourself to get real help.
So you're not really pushing through, but you're working through. Yeah, you're working through. You're accepting it as your reality.
Because the biggest thing that I teach people is to change the relationship that you have with yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Become more loving with yourself, more compassionate with yourself, more understanding. And to start that is you got to stop trying to make yourself be or have and feel or experience something that's not there.
Okay.
And you also have to, because I've told you before that we decided we were going to try to do a men's support group.
Right.
And one of the main themes of that support group was that most of the men felt like they weren't where they should be in life.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had fallen behind, and like you said, you can't live your life based on other people's measurements. You can't live your life compared to other people, and sometimes you have to live in your own truth. You can't live in the shadow of other people.
I will say being a therapist has made me so much more sympathetic towards black men now, right? Because how I see men show up in therapy now, like, I understand how much pressure there is, how much
We jacked up
and you guys never get an opportunity for vulnerability. Yeah.
to release. And let me say this. And I just had someone come to me and say that their partner weaponized something that they shared with them, and so now they're in the space of I'm good.
Yeah, but
And
I
would
would
never-
no longer a safe space.
And that's
yeah.
what that's what they've said, that there is no longer a safe space, and the communication as far as them opening up is done. And
That's in a relationship.
Yes, and I try to tell
it's
people that, like, you cannot, if someone is sharing something with you, you cannot turn around, and especially a black man,
Especially when
share it
you're
with
mad.
If they decide they're going to be vulnerable, and you turn around and use it against them, that it'll never happen again.
You gotta look at when men walk into a room, they put the whole room. It could be 100 men in that room, and nobody else. When a man walks in there, he puts them in 3 categories: those above me, those on my level, and those beneath me. And that's how he navigates. He doesn't interact with those beneath him because he feels they're beneath him. Those on his level, he's trying to get away from them. So he only gravitates toward those he feels are above him. And to show any kind of weakness or vulnerability will cause his plan to fall apart. So if you disrupt my plan, you disrupted my life. And that's where we put things at. And like you said, if you take my safety away, If you take that one thing away, I'm never going to give that back to you again. And if we do find a place where we can work through it, I'm still always going to be on guard with you.
Yep, absolutely.
And you may not be able to handle that, me being on guard. And that's the thing that we see. And like we carry so much pressure because of the fact is, when do we get a chance, especially as black men, to take off the cape? You got to keep that cape on all the time because we got to make sure we're providing, protecting, and if the house gets broken in, you got to be the first line of defense.
Yes.
If the bills aren't getting paid, everybody's looking at you.
If
there's
the spider jump out.
you got to go kill him.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing, and
Yes.
it might be controversial.
Please say
Okay, that's what we're here
Go
for.
with it, girl.
If I could get black men to stop reading the 48 Laws of Power, that would be such an advantage.
Stop
You
doing
said
what?
Stop.
Stop
Mom,
I'm sorry.
let me
reading
say-
it.
If my
Stop doing
listen,
what?
if
Reading.
if any of my brothers are watching, they're probably having a stroke right now because
Stop reading what?
The 48 Laws of Power.
Okay,
Oh.
okay.
You read that?
I have not read it.
Don't.
Now,
You
I'm
read it, Troy.
I have not. I've not.
But you've heard
I've
many,
heard,
many,
yeah, I've heard
Tell-
people, yeah, but I've not.
talk
So
to me about it.
let's talk about
to me
it.
about why.
For one, it's written by a very misogynistic white man
Okay.
that has privilege and power that you will never see in your black life.
Okay.
So now you are holding yourself to this impossible standard,
Okay.
and you memorize it, and you can quote it verbatim,
Okay.
and it's awful. So,
Now you're gonna make me
So-
want to read it.
I'm
No,
with the
just
synopsis.
because, now I want to go.
Because
I'm one of those people. Like
So as a
now, I need to
therapist,
go and read.
You've had a lot of people come to you with that, or
70% of the black men that I've been
Wow.
have read Laws of Power.
I've heard about it, but I have not
And
read it.
seek it out.
Oh, now I gotta go read it.
Wow.
Now. I
It's like
gotta
a
read it.
manual for living.
so
But it was written by a white man.
Absolutely.
So how do we get men to the point, and black men, but and men in general, to the point where they understand that their strength and vulnerability. You know, their strength in saying,
What y'all should
"I'm not
read
okay.
it.
I need help."
Read some
You
of
know-
Brene Brown books is what y'all should read.
See,
Well, you shook your head like that'll never happen.
So-
Brene Brown.
No. When I said
Me?
the strength and vulnerability,
Because you know how I go. I don't, I'm vulnerable right up until a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just like even and Gary knows, before this year here, before year 18, and I was able to talk about my mom, like I just couldn't do it.
yeah.
But I didn't like crying. I don't like crying in front
You
of
still don't
and,
like
and
it.
I don't. I
Yeah.
absolutely hate it. And the tears be right there, and I'm just like, no, please don't fall. My
Mm-hmm.
therapist's like, you got to learn to let that go.
You're not
And I
therapeutic. A good cry is.
No, I can't.
It's a
It's,
It is.
and I know it, and I've done it. But to say that I'm going to do it on a regular basis, or if I feel it coming up, I don't. Yeah, I shut it down immediately.
But you look how we teach little boys. First thing a little boy does, he hears some
Don't cry.
don't cry.
Don't cry.
And you get into such emphasized way that it sits with you that you're not supposed to cry. And so crying, one, shows that you're a baby. You're not a man because men don't cry.
Nope. Absolutely
And nothing is supposed to hurt you enough to make you cry.
Right.
And so we hold that in. That's indoctrinated in us.
Yes.
We are taught that at that age. If you teach a little boy to be sensitive, then you're going to say, well, you're feminizing.
Okay.
And so you got to cross in between those two things. And it's hard as men, after you've grown up with that, to break that cycle, to break that chain.
It also becomes a barrier for you guys to love and to be loved.
Absolutely.
It carries over to the relationships.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
there is
With
no
each other.
love
Yes.
without vulnerability.
No.
Even our relationship with each other, our interpersonal relationship with our brothers is a thing that we keep on a surface level because of the fact that you are not supposed to have a relationship of depth with anybody other than yourself.
Yep.
You know, it's interesting. I had my brother's a minister. You should have him on your show.
Oh, I would love that.
But I asked him this morning. I said, "Who can walk into a room and make you feel safe?" And like he was just, it was quiet. And he said, "I guess that's telling that I'm still thinking of who could walk in a room and I would instantly feel safe."
You just like I couldn't. Yeah, I'm with him. If
So what can
there's
we do?
nothing that I don't think that there's anybody that can do that.
Yeah.
There's
So I'm changing the question then. What can we, as potential partners?
We shouldn't change the question. We should stay there.
But I want to know, what can we do to make? What can your partner do to make you feel safe?
It might not be his partner right now.
Or person?
Oh.
Maybe it would have to be somebody else.
Yeah, but you
But who
say
walks in the
who?
room and makes you feel safe? Is there anybody?
Somebody what?
Like who do you love that loves you so much that if you had just got diagnosed with brain cancer and they walked in, you would instantly feel safe?
You know, and the thing is, I can pick 3 people. I can pick 3
That
people.
speaks volumes.
I can pick 3 people, and it might not be reciprocal. You know, I might not be that person for them, but they are for me.
Did you got somebody in mind?
You know, especially for men, like I said, we're not taught to share our feelings and emotions. And even when you can find somebody that you can feel comfortable with, but feel safe. Safe is a whole different level of expression. And I'm like Troy. Outside of my mom, who is probably my biggest cheerleader, no, there's not a person for me. I don't have that person.
That's such a lonely way to live.
It is absolutely.
Do you have someone?
If my sister walked in the room, she would make me feel safe in a very cared for way. If my brother walked in the room, he's gonna make me feel safe in an emotional way. If my son walked in the room, he's gonna make me feel safe, like completely and holistically.
And for me, safe is being unjudged. And I know that there are 3 people in my life that I feel like I can tell things to and won't be judged.
And they won't be able to do a thing about my brain cancer, right? But I want to be alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think that there are 3 people in my life that if I came to them, their question would be, what can I do?
Now you need to take this question to therapy and process it.
So when you say it like that, there are those people, Gary, for instance, I can call.
Yeah.
I don't even have to call him. If I just say I'm in the emergency room, he's just going to show up. I can call Z. So I do have these people that I can call.
But nobody makes you feel it.
But I think after the passing of my mother, that was the person that I felt my most safest with. So when I say that, let me clarify. I say that to say that it's just that level of safety that I felt with my mom that I don't feel with anybody else.
Okay.
But like I said, I know this man right here. Hell, even Glenn. I have those people in my life that I can call. But as far as that feeling that I had with my mom, you know, yeah, but I do have those people that I can call. So I'll say that. Yeah.
Do you feel like you're always on guard, that you're always guarded, that you have to always be guarded?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah. You know, even going through my separation right now, you know, some days I want love, and then some days I'm like, I don't know, because I don't, you know, at what cost does that come with, you know? So I just rather keep my space in my heart, you know. Let me just keep that safe. I know I can protect that, so let me just keep that to myself. Yeah.
And I will say that, you know, I was that person, but working with NAMI and having to, like, I hated public speaking, but having to go out, and the more I shared my story, the more I opened up and allowed myself to be vulnerable. You know, I would share my story, and then, you know, people would look at me dead silence. But then afterwards, when it was over with, people would come up to me privately and say, you know, I know exactly what you're talking about because I've gone through the same thing. Opening myself up has made me a completely different person.
Right.
It has made me a completely open person. There are things people know about me that they should not know, you know, because I'm just like, I'm going to tell it. And so maybe, you know, the more you do these podcasts, the more you explore, you know, other topics, the more you explore, you know, mental health, you know, it will change the way, how guarded you feel, you know.
And I've been working on that, honestly, for probably several years now.
Okay.
And that's been one of those points where I've just been kind of stuck, you know. So I'm a work in progress with that.
Hey, we all are.
We all
We all are.
Yeah. So we're going to get ready to wrap it up, but so I want to ask you guys this. I want each of you to answer this. If someone watching today has been silently struggling with their mental health, but they're afraid to tell anyone, not their pastor, not their family member, not even the doctor, what would you want them to hear? Start with you, Glenn.
What what I want a person to hear that's struggling, but don't want to hear somebody. That is essential that you find somebody. Because no matter how much you think that you can fix it on your own, you can't. And being a person that came from, I'm a pastor now, but I wasn't always one. And even I suffer with depression. And my book now that I'm writing is called My Fight with the Invisible Opponent. That I've fought depression and thoughts of suicide. And it's relevant. No matter how powerful, how much faith you feel, there's going to be times when you can't do it alone. And it's essential you find somebody to talk that out with.
And thank you for sharing that. Pastor Biden just touched on something. He said something about suicide, and I've been there. I've been there. I know what that feels like. He's God and has put Z in my life that on two separate occasions where I thought about ending it all, and she was the person that ended up calling me and basically talking about the ledge. So, black men, we suffer in silence.
Yes.
We really do. We suffer in silence. But Z, what would you want? What would you want somebody to do?
So, as cliche as it sounds, I just want them to know that, you are not alone. My grandmother used to always say, and everybody else's grandmother used to always say that, there's nothing new under the sun. And I know that it looks and feels like you are the only one going through what you're going through, but you are not. Okay, there are other people that have the same experience, and they are there, and you have to find them. You need to reach out to them, and not to sound like a plug, but our support groups. That's a wonderful place because it's not always a loved one that understands what you're going through. Sometimes a loved one wants to say, "Okay, just get over it." Sometimes it's a group of strangers
Yes.
that have been through the exact same experience that you've been through, that know what you're going through and can empathize with what you're going through and are there to give you that shared wisdom, and they're there to show you that recovery is possible. So, reach out to someone, but if you don't have anyone in your circle, come to a support group. They're online, they're virtual. Reach out to a stranger. Find that person that is going through the same thing that you're going through and share your experiences together.
What would you want them to do?
That's such a difficult.
Don't read that book.
You're gonna get a lot of comments about that book.
I'm looking forward to it.
And I don't want to hear none of it. But that's such a difficult question, and it's not. There's no easy answer for that. Because I think about my own life and when I didn't seek support when I needed it. I'm not sure if anybody could have said anything that would have made it different for me. I think Maya Angelou, she quoted a playwright all the time, and she said, "I too am human, therefore nothing human can be alien to me." Right?
I love that.
So we all suffer.
Absolutely. See, did you have any closing remarks? Is there anything else you wanted to say before I close this out?
Well, no, I want to say thank you for giving us this platform, for allowing us to come in here and sponsor this. We'll be hopefully doing it again. I think I talked to you about October, first week being Mental Illness Awareness Week, so I'd love to be back on again. But if anybody wants information about our support groups or more information about our resources, they can go to NAMIcanHelp.org and look up all the resources and contact me.
Thank you. I want to thank each of my guests, Pastor Glenn Bynum, Sanithia Brown, and the sponsorship from NAMI, Mid Carolina, and my co-worker, my colleague, and my new friend, Holly Capers. I want to thank each of you. You have come on and shared information and been a part of this very powerful conversation. And I can't thank you enough. I want to thank the behind the scenes team, my bestie, Gary, my other bestie, Nicole. Thank you guys. Gary, do we have any questions?
Not currently. No.
Okay, all right. So I'll go ahead and close this out. Remember, broken doesn't mean finished. Tomorrow is another opportunity to become the person you are created to be. We'll see you next time on another episode of the T.A.B. Experience Podcast. Thank you.